Hello and welcome to the agenda. I am Ajay Kaul. In this program today, we will analyze the strategic importance of Chabahar port being built by India, Iran, and Afghanistan. India is celebrating the Chabahar Day today. What does it mean? Chabahar is a key port in Iran which is being developed jointly by three countries: Iran, India, and Afghanistan. The three countries had signed an agreement to this effect 5 years back and are commemorating the 5th anniversary. What is the significance of this project? We will discuss this in the agenda today. We have with us two retired diplomats, Ambassador Deepak Vora and Ambassador Ashok Sajanhar. But before we start our conversation, have a look at this small report.
The Chabahar port in Iran, being developed jointly by Iran, India and Afghanistan, is seen as a gateway to opportunities for trade with Central Asia. The port is located on Indian Ocean and is particularly crucial for India for access to Afghanistan, since Pakistan has been denying road transit facility from India to Afghanistan. The Chabahar port, which is easily accessible to India from its western coast, is also seen as a counter to Pakistan's Gwadar port, which is being developed with Chinese help. India made a landmark decision to undertake investment in Chabahar, recognizing its importance for regional connectivity. This project has been under discussion for some time, and it was in 2016 during the visit of Prime Minister Narendra Modi to Iran that a trilateral agreement was signed to establish an international transport and transit corridor. The signatories are India, Iran and Afghanistan. The project is intended to ensure unhindered flow of commerce throughout the region and to create a safe, secure and reliable route to trade, initially with Afghanistan and thereafter with Central Asia as a whole. For further impetus to the intended objective, India has proposed that Chabahar port be included in the International North-South Transport Corridor. The North-South Transport Corridor is a 7,200 km long multi-mode network to link Indian Ocean with Central Asia and Europe. The objective is to ensure movement of freight by ship, rail and road route between India, Iran, Afghanistan, Azerbaijan, Russia, Central Asia and Europe. Bureau Report.
Now let's welcome our guests, Ambassador Vora and Ambassador Sajanhar. Welcome to the program, both of you, sirs.
Thank you very much.
So let me go to Ambassador Sajanhar first about the Chabahar Day that India is commemorating today. So what is the significance of this?
Well, as you said, that today we are marking the 5th anniversary of the trilateral agreement that was signed between Prime Minister Modi, the Iranian President Hassan Rouhani, and the Afghan President Ghani. So this is basically to develop Chabahar port, and I think to get a connectivity to Afghanistan and to Central Asia. That's a very element because, as far as India is concerned, because all these three countries, and in addition to that, even Uzbekistan also has, Central Asian countries also have a very vital and a very strong interest in developing Chabahar. But looking at it from the perspective of India, whether it is Afghanistan or it is Central Asian countries, these are all a part of India's extended neighborhood.
Right.
We have had centuries-old relations with these countries. There used to be the Silk Road, which traveled, let's say, from 3rd century BCE till about 15th century AD. That means for about 1800 years, there used to be traders which used to go from here through Central Asia and Afghanistan, and they used to go to the Middle East, to West Asia and to Europe. But after India's independence, when Pakistan was created, Pakistan does not provide access to India to either Afghanistan
Right.
or Pakistan. So Chabahar development is very important. We started on it, of course, in 2003. There was an agreement with Iran, but we were not really able to take it forward because Iran was under sanctions. But after the sanctions were removed, Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action was signed in 2015. Then we started taking it further. But then last 1 or 2 years again, there have been some glitches because Mr. Trump again put sanctions on Iran and withdrew from GCPOA. But it is strategically very important for India and for the region. It is economically very important for India, for Iran, for Central Asia, for Afghanistan. So I think it is very befitting that on the sidelines of the India Maritime Summit 2021, we are also marking the Chabahar Day, which is the fifth anniversary of the agreement signed between the leaders of two countries.
Right.
Ajay.
So, Ambassador Vora, I'll come to you. As you heard Ambassador Sajanhar giving a detailed overview. But I will ask you a maybe devil's question. 5 years, is it, 5 years is the agreement that was signed, but we have been talking about it maybe 10 years, over the last 10 years or maybe more. So, progress is very slow. So, what do you see the future of this project?
Thank you very much, Mr. Cole. Always a pleasure to learn from you and from my distinguished colleague, Ambassador Sajanhar, whose knowledge of this region is unrivaled. Thank you. It's a great opportunity. I wonder if you recall some years ago, perhaps it was in the mid-90s, that people had started talking about TAPI, the Turkmenistan, Afghanistan, Pakistan,
TAPI,
India oil pipeline. You remember that?
Yeah, right.
And then, of course, development of that started.
There was a project called IPI. Actually, TAPI came later on as an alternative to IPI.
Now Turkmenistan's part was completed. Afghanistan did what it needed to with our help. And then Pakistan, of course, because of chronic instability, nothing has really happened. So I do believe, sir, that while some may have forgotten about TAPI, the Chabahar port and the linkage north-south are an alternative sea route to TAPI. It might ultimately land up seeing oil and gas coming from different. However, there used to be a former very interesting history named Tis in Chabahar's neighborhood dating back to 2500 BC. And it was also known during Alexander the Great's time. In fact, Al-Biruni wrote that the seacoast of India commenced with the port of Tis. It was the Shah of Iran who first put the Chabahar port. I think it was in the early 70s. But then came the revolution, and the Iranian revolution, and everything sort of stopped. The first phase of the port was over in 19. Then, of course, you know that India, Russia, and Iran had backed the Northern Alliance against the Pakistan-backed. So it was decided India to develop the bypass Pakistan, obtain ready access. And that is the journey. Whatever else we might think. Then, 3 years ago, trilateral agreement signed with Turkmenistan to expand trade into Central Asia. 20 years ago, another agreement with Russia to provide seamless transport between India and Europe via an international north-south transport corridor. Now, Chabahar remains the key port, linking India with Afghanistan and Central Asian countries. We have, as you rightly pointed out, sir, 5 years ago, we had signed those 12 memorandums of understanding, I think $8 or $9 billion investment, and we were going to invest in Chabahar Special Economic Zone, an aluminium smelter, urea making facility, etc., etc. The point was that ultimately through Chabahar, the western ports of India would link to Chabahar and cover the road and rail links between Chabahar and the Afghanistan corridor. Now, some policy analysts, and I do hope that my colleague Ambassador Sajanhar and you, Mr. Kaul, are not amongst them, believe that the Indian investment in Chabahar and the Chinese investment in Gwadar are in some ways competitive.
Right.
Both are looking at perceptions of strategic encirclement. China thinks it's being encircled by US and India, and Pakistan thinks it's being encircled by India through all this. These are, of course, containment strategies, etc. Let me just put it to you like this, sir. It is true that we are looking at it essentially as a trade positive, if that is the right word. But let me also say that we have broken through the strategic encirclement by China and Pakistan. We now have direct access to Afghanistan and hence to Central Asia.
So it's a tremendous triumph for Indian diplomacy,
But
despite
Ambassador Vora,
US sanctions.
actually we intend to have that, but it is progressing very slow. That is my question.
There are sanctions against Iran. So
No, I
the
think
world is very
I think
complicated.
Chabahar has been exempted by US because I know
Now, but
US has its own
sir,
interest in this.
they said you can't buy oil from Iran,
Yeah.
etc. Reduce. You know
So
all that. So I don't
Chabahar
need
has
to say that.
exempted. So I'll go to
We live in a
Ambassador.
very we live in a very complicated
Right.
world. We have many balances and checks that we have to think about. Ambassador Sajanar knows that better than I. We need, for example, iron. So I don't know from Afghanistan's mind. We need other natural resources from Central Asian countries, Kazakhstan, Turkmenistan, Uzbekistan, and this is made possible by Chabahar.
Right. So Ambassador Sajanhar, I'll come to you. See, as I mentioned that the progress is perhaps in my view that it's very slow. And as I mentioned that US has exempted, this Chabahar port from the sanctions. But at the same time, if you talk about Iran, Iran has been a very tricky country. If you talk about long term, we had an LNG deal with them, I think 2005 or something, and Iran backed out of that. And on this Chabahar also, I think they have been playing tricks. Last June, they said that India cannot participate in that railway part of the project, and all those
But they
things.
denied it.
So how do you see that? Tricky character of Iran, Ambassador Sajid?
Well, a couple of things there, but before that, let me say that, I fully concur with and distinguished friend Ambassador Vora has said on this subject. I think we are absolutely on the same page. But coming to your question, you said that it's been very slow. To an extent, I would tend to agree with you. From 2003 till about 2015, it was very slow because no one was really, either country or company, big global company was willing to touch Chabahar with a long barge pole because it was under sanction. After 2015, when things really started happening, then India acted on it very proactively. You would recall March 2016, 2015, the agreement is signed and sanctions are removed. JCPOA is signed in 2016. We are able to go and we are able to have this tripartite and deal. And then we start constructing it very quickly, from March of 2016 till December of 2017 to expand the capacity of the Shahid Bahishti port from about 2,500 tons to about 8,500 tons. So, we were able to work very fast. But then again, after that, after 2017, we have in 2018, Mr. Trump, in May of that year, he says that, he is withdrawing from JCPOA. You are again back to square one. Now, I take your point when you say that Chabahar was exempted from the sanctions. But I invite you to think of a scenario when you have Mr. Trump at the helm of affairs in the United States.
Yeah, that uncertainty is there.
No country, no company is willing, and they don't know how Mr. Trump is going to react. So he's so unpredictable.
Yeah.
So no one was really willing to touch again, to come to Chabahar or to invest or even to in Chabahar. So it's only very recently in last month, we have provided 240-ton cranes to Iran. They have been imported from Italy, and they have been provided. And we had said that we are going to provide 6 such heavy-duty cranes to Iran. So India is moving very fast. The problem was in terms of, what you mentioned, that Iran has been a tricky customer, so to say, in terms of laying that 500-kilometer line from Zahedan up to the border with Afghanistan.
Yeah.
But I think there also things are really quite open, and IRCON has some sort of an agreement, a tie-up with its counterpart in Iran. Going forward, I think things will fall in place, particularly I think if Mr. Biden reaches out to Iran and the JCPOA, then I think it definitely has a future. But even without that, you would recall, Ajay, that we have supplied about 75,000 tons of wheat to Afghanistan through the Chabahar port.
Yeah.
And you would recall that in the last meeting of the SCO, it was President Ashraf Ghani of Afghanistan who waxed eloquent about the generosity of India. Very recently, he spoke about the generosity of India as far as the COVID-19 vaccine are concerned. But at that time, at the SCO summit in November, he went on and on about the
But if I
generosity
may
of
interrupt you,
India.
Ambassador, that generosity
Yes,
of
please.
India is basically interrupted by Pakistan, no, which is not granting road access to India.
I know, but you see, if you have a stone in front of you, what do? Do you
Yeah.
keep kicking it and try to move it out of the way, or do you try to skirt around it and move around it?
Right, right.
That's what we are doing.
Yeah.
If I cannot get access to Pakistan, till good sense prevails on Pakistan, that it is going to be to its own benefit, economic and strategic benefit and advantage, to provide access to Indian goods and cargo from India through Pakistan to Afghanistan and Central Asia is going to be for its benefit. If it doesn't recognize what is good for it, then we have to go via Chabahar.
Yeah.
And we are doing that. And other countries are also using the facilities there, Ajay.
Yeah.
So I think it is a win-win proposition for India, Iran, Central Asia, and Afghanistan.
Right. So Ambassador Vora, I think wants to say something before I ask
No,
question.
I was very pleased to hear Ambassador Shahjahan refer to our gift of wheat to Afghanistan, and the picture behind me, regrettably, I don't know if you can see it, but that's when the Indian ship docked there in Chabahar, carrying the first consignment of wheat from India. And
2017. Of course, in 2012 also we had
That
used
picture
it.
is hidden behind you.
I know,
we can't-
unfortunately. We should move to one side. Now
Yeah.
you can see
Yeah, we
it.
can see now.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. There is another issue here, sir. We hope, and certainly India hopes, that some countries will also use to link to
Afghanistan and reduce their dependence on Pakistan. You recall, sir, that in the past, Pakistan did not hesitate to close NATO's overland access through Pakistan to Afghanistan when some Pakistani soldiers were killed a few years ago inadvertently, they say, by NATO forces.
Ultimately, Pakistan demanded and got compensation. So, Afghanistan may be in turmoil today. It's a large country and it's there.
Therefore, the world needs to have a reliable route for access to Afghanistan. And I believe one route, of course, is the northern route, which comes from the former Soviet Union, Tajikistan, etc. The other one is through Iran, because Pakistan is far more unstable, regrettably, than Afghanistan today. Now, let me just ask you this question. Why is Chabahar important to Iran? 90% of Iran's population is concentrated in the western part of the country. The eastern part, therefore, is relatively, where Chabahar is, relatively less developed. Now, Iran intends to change that with the development around Chabahar port, free trade zone, road and rail links between Chabahar and Central Asia. It's going to be a gateway to Central Asia. And it thinks that Bandar Abbas port, which at the moment is very heavily utilized, it handles about 9/10 of Iran's seaborne trade. It will be a hub for trade with Russia and Europe, whereas Chabahar will be with Central Asia. You know, we are building the railway line as part of the North-South
Ambassador Vora,
corridor.
we know advantages. I think Iran also knows the advantages.
No, I was talking about the advantage
Yeah.
to Iran. The advantage to us, there is no question about it, sir.
But my
Afghanistan
question
is a strategic partner.
My question
and we have
was
direct access.
no.
Yeah,
My
go ahead.
question was about the tricky character of Iran. I mean, we know the maverick leaders Iran has had and has. So
There's another country called the US that had.
So
maverick
they
leaders
keep
too.
changing goalposts. If I as I mentioned about LNG deal that they had with India, and they backed out and they changed the cost, and it didn't take off, that LNG deal even after signing that deal. So I'm questioning the commitment of Iran, whether they are committed really, or they may again change goalposts. That's my
Well,
question.
if they do not, if they are unable to develop the port on their own, their only hope at this time is India, which has demonstrated its friendship time and again with Iran. And if I were an Iranian leader, I would see very clearly. They may be tricky for their domestic reasons, but their ultimate hope to develop their eastern path through Chabahar and through the ancillary development, their best hope, sir, is not China, because Gwadar is not too far from Chabahar. Their best hope is India. And I'm sure the Iranians understand how the Chinese investment in the so-called China-Pakistan exploitation, sorry, not exploitation, what is it called? Economic corridor, I beg your pardon. How their Their investment there has made
you coin very
Pakistan
well
into a
words.
veritable. It has made it into a veritable colony of China. The Iranians don't want to do that. So they go back a long time to the time of Darius the Great and so on. They are not going to be anybody's son. Yes, they are tricky. No question. Some people call them bazari. They are transactional. But then every country hopes to be they're not all like India. Very good, very consistent, very long.
We are running out of time. We have time for maybe two questions. Ambassador Sajanar, I'll talk about, linking of Chabahar to the North-South Corridor project, which has been a proposal from India for long, but it has not got acceptance as of now. So why do you think there is no acceptance? Because I think Americans also want that corridor to take off.
Yeah, my understanding is slightly different from what you mentioned. As far as the INSTC is concerned, I remember I was in Moscow at that time when it was launched in about 1990s. And after that, it comes through Azerbaijan and Iran, from Russia to Azerbaijan, Iran, and then it goes to Bandar Abbas.
Yeah.
It doesn't go to Chabahar. So the proposal that has been made, I think it has been very recently made that Chabahar should also be made a part of the INSTC.
Yeah.
Because earlier Central Asian countries were not really a part of the INSTC. As I mentioned, it's only the western coast of the Caspian, from Baku, from Azerbaijan, it used to go up. And but now the inclusion of Central Asia, particularly Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan, Turkmenistan, because Uzbekistan, as all your listeners would know, is a doubly landlocked country. All the other Central Asian countries are landlocked. They have no access whatsoever to the warm waters of the seas. So they are very interested. So if Chabahar comes, and I agree with what Ambassador Deepak Bora is saying, that it is so, Bandar Abbas is so heavily utilized that there is no possibility of it being able to deal with or handle any other cargo. While as far as Chabahar is concerned, it has a natural hinterland. It is a huge hinterland. And then it can also support a large number of industries, gas-based industries, whether it is aluminium, whether it is fertilizers or others. So in that sense, the hinterland of Chabahar can be developed very well. And if that is also able to go through and get connected with the INSTC, I think it is going to be beneficial for everyone concerned.
Yeah.
One last point that I will make here, Ajay, is
that
what I find surprising in this India Maritime Summit is that Azerbaijan is participating. Now, is it a result of the fact that Azerbaijan was supported both by Pakistan and Turkey in its war against Armenia and Nagorno-Karabakh?
Yeah.
And Armenia is participating, although Armenia is not a part of the INSTC. So something for us to think about.
Yeah.
And I'm sure Ambassador Deepak Bora, my dear friend, has very many ideas and thoughts in that.
Ambassador Bora, last comments to you.
I just wanted to say, sir, there's nothing I can add to what you have said and what Ambassador.
No, about Azerbaijan and Armenia, as he was mentioning.
Well, I was going to simply say that the primary objective of the North-South Transport Corridor, sir, which we are talking about expanding it now, is to reduce costs in terms of time and money over the traditional route currently being used. Analysts predict that by having improved transport connectivity, Russia, Central Asia, Iran and India and Eurasia, their respective trade volumes will increase. In fact, the Federation of Freight Forwarders Association in India had carried out a study saying that it will become 30% cheaper and 40% shorter than the traditional
But
route.
Chabahar can be a springboard for reaching even to Europe. Not only
absolutely. Chabahar is going to link to these, and it's going to help cities like Mumbai, Moscow, Tehran, Baku, Bandar Abbas, Astrakhan, Yerevan, etc., etc. So I hate to use this term win-win, but let me put it this way, it's a no lose-lose situation. Nobody is going to lose, everybody is going to gain from this. It has to come. It's an idea whose time has come, and I conclude with Victor Hugo's famous thing, no power on earth can stop an idea whose time has come.
So we are hopeful that it will be concluded at the earliest so that we can get access to Iran, Afghanistan and Central Asia. But the time of this program is over. Thank you both of you for participating in this.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Kaul. Thank you, Ambassador.
This is all in the agenda today. Thanks for watching. I'll be back with another important topic tomorrow. Till then, goodbye.